Yeah, I can say something about that. This is based on research that we carried out very carefully in schools over years, and it's part of a bigger concern by us and other researchers that people are often unaware of the social rules which determine how they behave in conversational situations or in any talk situation. People, it's all kind of taken for granted, and it's not really see behind the obvious nature of it. For example, in this situation we're in now, there are some ground rules which we haven't really discussed, but are there. One is that I won't just talk about what I want to talk about. One of the ground rules I'm following is make sure I address the questions that Hideko and Ayako ask me. And like one of the ground rules for you is you don't speak again until you think I've completed. Don't speak until the speaker has completed what he wants to say. And we're doing that. We seem to know those rules, so we're okay. But in classrooms and other settings, students often may not know the rules, or they may have bad rules. They may be using wrong rules, which is a bad rule might be in a classroom. When I've got something to say, I say it straight away, regardless of what anybody's doing. That's not a good rule. A better rule is I wait to find a suitable time to say what I want to say. And there are lots of rules hidden like that. So one of the things that we think for teachers, there are 5 steps really for them to develop student skills in working together, which depend on the students becoming aware of the right kinds of ground rules, right kind of social rules or norms that they should follow to make a good conversation happen. And this should begin. The first step is that you raise the students' own awareness of how they talk when they're in groups or in any situation, because it won't be obvious to them. Oracy isn't that obvious. It's hard things to see because it's just in the air, isn't it? So what the teacher needs to do is get them, first of all, to talk about if they've been working in groups, what's it like working in groups? Do you like working in groups? What happens when you work in groups? They might say, do you find it helps you learn? Some of them might say yes, some might say no. You say, why not? And they'll might say, oh, well, because I never feel like saying anything. Or they might say, because the other people talk all the time and I never get a chance to speak. Or I speak and they never listen to what I say. Or they might say, yes, it's really useful because sometimes they have a better answer than me for the question. And so I learn from them. So you get them to think about this. That's step 1, is you raise their awareness. And the second step is really to ask about, more particularly, what do they think makes it go right or wrong? I mean, you've already got them to think about the importance of talk for learning. And you say, well, okay, well, when it goes wrong, well, how does it go wrong? Building on this first step of raising awareness generally. And then you can lead them on to say, well, what would be some good rules to use when you're all working together? Get them to think of it. And they could say, if you were making group work better, what would you actually want people to do? And they will say, well, we should all take turns. Yes, that's a good idea. We all take turns. We shouldn't interrupt each other. That's right. We should share any relevant knowledge we have, and we should try and agree on the best answer. Oh, this is great. Yeah. And you take them through that. Now, the teacher already, if they've done the professional development with you or with us, will know what a good discussion is. And they will know that it's based on this notion of exploratory talk, or accountable talk is very similar. And so what they need then to do is to lead the students towards that idea themselves. So the next step in step 3 really would be to say, okay, you've suggested some things. Let me put some other things up here. and you will then set out for them what are the characteristics of exploratory talk, which are things like we take turns, we ask questions, we give reasons for our answers, we try and reach agreement, and so on. And from that, you then agree with them a set of ground rules that they will follow. And typically, this teacher will put them in a poster on the wall, right? So they're visible. And they'll say, okay, do we all agree that next time we're in groups, we will actually try and follow these rules? And they say, yeah, okay, we'll try it. So that's the third step. They're then on the wall, these ground rules. And then what they really need to do is be given some suitable activities to practice using these rules. Now that's easy to say, but it's not that straightforward, because unless they are suitable group work activities, it won't generate productive talk. If the activities are too easy, they'll just say, oh yeah, it's number 3, and I'll just say, yeah, there's no need to. If it's too hard, they'll just sit there and not know. So it's got to be very careful, and there's a whole set of skills which we help teachers develop in creating good talk activities, which is part of that step of the 4th step, really. And you will know, I mean, there are things like activities that involve talking points, which are where you give students statements rather than questions to say, do they agree with these? Do they not agree with them? Or are they not sure? Because we find that generates more discussion than if you say, answer this question, because they think it's just one answer, while the talking point, they can talk a bit more about it. So then you do that, you put them in groups to do it. That's the 4th step. And what's more, when it's a good idea to sometimes mix the groups up, because if they're just with their friends, well, they might talk very easily with their friends, but can they talk with anybody? And they should be developing the skill to talk with anyone in a group. And so it's good to put them in groups and that aren't just friendship groups. It can also help, because the teacher will know what the children are like. If there is, say, a very shy person, it can help to make sure they're in a group with someone they know will help that person to speak. Think of, oh yeah, he will really help him to not be so shy. Or if they are speakers of another language, sometimes to have another student who speaks that language but also speaks the main language, Japanese or English, very well, it can again help that student to take part actively more. And also if there's a student who's got special needs, say they are problems with communication, that or it could be that they can't hear so well, again, you're going to make sure that they got the right kind of help from the other students if you can. So setting up the groups is quite important as that 4th step. And then the 5th step, which is really very important, is to review with the students after they've done this, how well it is going. So when you're at the end of a lesson, if it's a primary school lesson, and say they've been doing some activity in groups in science or mathematics, at the end of the lesson, the teacher might say, okay, how do people feel about learning about the solar system? Can you tell me, do you feel anything you want to know? And they would always say, also, how do you feel about how you've been working in groups? Can we go around and talk about how you feel it's gone? Has it got better to work in groups? Are there still any problems? Would you like to make any comments on that? And that way, it keeps that raised awareness, and they also can see whether they are following. She can say, "Did you all follow the ground rules?" And some of them will say, "Yes," and some will say, "No." Some people still not following the ground rules. So it can really help, and that is a crucial 5th step, I think, is, as I say in the book, to make sure that their awareness is raised and that they see what the skills they are developing. And my colleague Topsy Page, she has done these things in schools, which we call talk audits. That word audit in English, meaning a sort of assessment of where things are, like they do our audits of accounts for companies, things like that. She does a talk audit in a school if they ask for it. And as part of that, she talks to the students. She watches what happens, but she also and listens. But she also asks the students what they think. And she has found that when you do it, set the ground rules for exploratory talk in a school, that the children will typically start saying things like, yes, it's much better now in our groups. When I talk, they really listen to me. Or, well, yeah, we work much more quickly and sensibly now when we're working together because nobody's wasting time. And so, you know, she's found that the students do appreciate this.
Right.
And it seems like a very clear game for everyone. And when I go into a classroom, I've been into classrooms with even very young children, say 5 years old or 6. I remember going into 2 schools in London in one day. In the first one, they hadn't yet started doing Oracy really, but they wanted to. So I was going in the classroom and they were in groups and it was very noisy and they're all moving around and it didn't look very, and the teacher said, oh, sorry about all this. I then went in another school with, again, very young children where they'd been doing this for a while. And it was just so calm. And the teacher could talk to me because they were just working in their groups. And sometimes one would come and ask us something. But the difference was quite striking, where they'd actually started to work in this way. And people have found that this applies to people of different ages. You know, it goes right up to university level. There are people working on this kind of principle now to get students in universities able to work better in teams and in laboratories. And so I think it's something that really is been shown to work very, very well, this kind of approach.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's like a circulate from 1 to 5 like that to review with the student what they done with ground rules.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when we visited some primary schools in London, Camden.
Yeah, Camden, yeah.
Yeah, there. And the students are very proudly introduce our, that they are ground rules. This is our ground rules, like that. Always on the wall of the classroom. And the students are very happy with this. And
yes, they are usually, yes.
Ground rules. And, and they appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
That's great. And
we think that this is one of the things we think should happen if Oracy is in the curriculum in schools. This should be part of what they're learning. They should be learning about talk in this way, just as they learn in literacy how to make a good sentence or how to spell words and things. Well, this is something they should be learning in English about spoken language.